Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman announces that he will not be seeking re-election this fall. There's a group calling itself Global Canada, which says certain provinces need to be shut down for up to 2 months to get COVID-19 under control. And more details are coming in as to the violence which erupted during protests in Washington, D.C. yesterday.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The Mayor of Lethbridge will not be seeking re-election this fall. Mayor Chris Spearman made the announcement at City Hall on Thursday. As Loris Alexander explains, the Mayor has been contemplating this move for the last half a year.
I've always been, I think, someone who's been progressive, and I think sometimes you have to reassess everything and decide coming up, now's the time to do things differently. And that's the decision I've made, that in 10 months, I'm going to do things differently.
Spearman was Lethbridge's 25th mayor, elected in 2013, and went on to win again in 2017.
I'm a few years beyond when most people retire. I don't expect to live forever. I want to spend time with my family. And I don't know how many years I have left. And I just want to make sure that while I have good health, I'm able to travel. I want to make the best of those years and enjoy some of my other interests. I think by the end of this term, I'll have provided 26 years of public service in the city of Lethbridge, and 8 years on council, 18 years on the school board.
When asked about his disappointments, Spearman talks about not having all the pillars in place to combat the drug crisis in Lethbridge.
Not being able to help with housing significantly. We do have a housing strategy, but getting support for it and making sure we don't have the tangible results. We've got 200 people minimum that are homeless in our city. The PAC team from the police been reporting on a quarterly basis to say, here we're in contact with these people. Here's all the significant issues that they're creating in the city, and we can't provide them with regular support.
For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
The province announced today that students in kindergarten through grade 12 will return to in-class learning beginning on Monday. Officials say mandatory health measures will remain in effect across Alberta until at least January the 21st. Premier Jason Kenney explains why his government is allowing kids to return to class.
The decision to resume in-class learning on January 11th is based on carefully considering the importance of attending school in person, as well as the latest evidence of cases dropping in all school-related age groups in December. And this is based on advice both from our Chief Medical Officer as well as the Minister and Department of Education.
Premier Kenney hosted a Q&A on his Facebook page recently, taking questions from Albertans. He's been working in a federal building in Edmonton while office spaces at the legislature are being renovated. Kenney talked about the federal Liberals' new carbon tax, which is coming, and how it will impact so many in our province.
The federal Liberal government has confirmed that they are moving the carbon tax from now $40 a ton to $170. And believe you me, they won't stop there. So we were right all along about how big this tax grab is, and it punishes resource-producing provinces and rural people in particular who consume more energy, who use more, farmers who use, who dry their grain, for example, an essential part of their work, greenhouse operators, and so much more, truckers, obviously. So that is why we are committed to that fight with our allies in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick.
The world was watching what unfolded in Washington, D.C. yesterday as protesters of the U.S. election stormed Capitol Hill. Reporter Mary Jelinek was in the House chamber on Wednesday when a violent mob stormed in, forcing lawmakers into hiding.
I was just sitting in the press gallery, just doing our jobs as normal, as it became clear that the Capitol was being breached, and they recessed that session. And then they told lawmakers that the Capitol had been breached, but be calm. They tried to go back in session. That didn't last very long. And then they told lawmakers that that there had been tear gas used in the area of the rotunda so that they would need to put on their gas masks, which were apparently under their chairs. I don't know if they knew that or not, but then all of a sudden everyone's like, it's just total chaos. Everyone's like going under their chairs. These are, House lawmakers in the House chamber who were just a few minutes earlier debating the electoral count of Joe Biden's presidential win.
U.S. President Donald Trump urged the protesters who stormed Capitol Hill to go home. He also kept up his claims of a fraudulent election and called his supporters very special.
We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel.
U.S. Congress has formally validated Joe Biden's presidential election victory hours after the time-honored ceremony became a nightmare with the recent violence on Capitol Hill.
The report we make is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be the president and the vice president according to the ballots that have been given to us.
The whole number of electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
Bridge City News video journalist Ainsley O'Reilly breaks down additional details of the protest which took place in Washington, D.C. yesterday and shares reaction from our local politicians.
Lethbridge, Alberta is about 3,500 kilometers from the White House, a 35-hour drive. But Albertans, Canadians, Liberals, and Conservatives watched as pro-Trump rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol. Lawmakers were forced to flee as they gathered to certify President-elect Joe Biden's victory. 4 people have died, including one woman who was shot by law enforcement. Dozens have been arrested. And while we aren't close to the U.S. Capitol in proximity, Canadians, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, denounced the violence. He said in a statement on Twitter, "Canadians are deeply disturbed and saddened by the attack on democracy in the United States, our closest ally and neighbor. Violence will never succeed in overruling the will of the people. Democracy in the U.S. must be upheld, and it will be." Closer to home, Conservative MP Rachel Harder was not available for comment, while Alberta's Agriculture and Forestry Minister Devin Dreeshen, who worked on Donald Trump's campaign back in 2016, issued a brief statement saying he denounces all forms of political violence. For Bridge City News, I'm Ainsley O'Reilly.
More than 200 Alberta doctors say healthcare staff working in COVID-19 wards should be vaccinated sooner rather than later. The physicians say people who work directly with those hospitalized with the virus should get priority for getting the vaccine. The doctors made their point in a letter to Alberta Health Minister Tyler Shandro. Shandro's office says the federal government has not procured enough vaccines to immunize everyone, making demands. Alberta reported another 1,123 cases of COVID-19 on Wednesday, along with 25 more deaths, including a physician. When it comes to government restrictions during the COVID-19 pandemic, there are many who believe the church is under attack. You can include Tanya Gaw in that group. Tanya is the co-founder of Action for Canada, and she says pastors and churches across the country are being unfairly targeted right now.
If the box stores are open like Costco and the pandemic hasn't closed any of these locations down, then why are they actually closing the churches down? And we're addressing that in that we've actually created a declaration, and that declaration is being signed not only by pastors and church leaders, but by congregations, and we're opening it up to all Canadians to sign. And basically what the declaration says to the provincial health officer and the premier is that we will no longer comply to these measures as long as they continue to be inconsistent and irrational, and they are unlawful.
Catch the entire interview with Tanya Gaw with Action for Canada coming up later in our newscast. There's a group in our country which believes that parts of Canada need to be locked down for the next 4 to 6 weeks until the COVID-19 virus is under control. The nonprofit group is called Global Canada, based in Montreal. Robert Greenhill is the group's executive chairman. So Robert, you don't believe that this virus is under control? Are you petitioning government officials with a request for more lockdowns?
We're asking for each province to make sure that their testing and tracing systems are working effectively. So in Atlantic Canada, they're in great shape. In Alberta, they've made huge progress, right? BC's in good shape. Quebec and Ontario are in bad shape, and they probably do need a 4 to 6 week lockdown so that their case level can come down low enough. And certainly what we're doing is making the case that people look at that. And part of how we're making the case is by showing you could create over 300,000 jobs and create almost $40 billion of value through this approach.
Now, what do you say to people who believe that the lockdowns are causing more harm than good? I mean, suicide rates are going through the roof, depression rates, not just to people's mental and physical health, the lockdowns, but the health of so many businesses.
What we're trying to do is avoid a third lockdown. The challenge of doing this incorrectly is there are going to be lockdowns taking place in Quebec and Ontario, and there's a lockdown in Alberta right now. The problem is if they're done badly, we'll be back into a third lockdown in March or April. And so what we're saying is it's better for everybody that we get this right now, do it once, and then move forward in a way that we never have to have a lockdown again. One thing that's really important, Hal, is we're not advocating the same multi-month lockdown that we've seen in Australia, which caused a lot of hardship. What we're saying is 4 to 6 weeks to get the system under control. And then after that, keep cases coming down, but not through a lockdown, but just by preserving enough of the key restraints so that COVID never gets out of control again.
That was Robert Greenhill with Global Canada joining me from Montreal. And by the way, in Ontario today, there were 3,519 new cases of the coronavirus reported, which is a single-day record. There were also 89 more deaths. Fortunately, close to 173,000 Ontarians have also recovered from the novel coronavirus. Closer to home, Larch Lethbridge is an organization geared towards bringing our disabled community together. February is typically when they'd host their annual fundraising dinner. Now, with COVID-19 pandemic, the group got creative, partnering with Umami Foods to create a virtual dinner experience.
So our fundraiser is on February the 27th. It's a Saturday, and we're partnering with Umami Shop. So they're providing meal kits for butter chicken. That includes chicken and salad and rice and naan bread. And we're hoping to raise a bit more money. Last year, we raised money at our benefit dinner for a wheelchair accessible van for one of our homes. And we're hoping, so that's what the funds will go to this year, to help us purchase a new wheelchair accessible van. And we're hoping after this fundraising dinner that we'll be able to actually purchase the vehicles.
Larch is hoping to sell around 200 tickets. You can purchase them online at larchlethbridge.org. Now, it's no secret that families have had to get creative with their time at home during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many Canadians have reacquainted themselves with an old friend, the board game. As Micah Quinn explains now, 2 of the top games of 2020 were highlighted by games company Goliath.
Perhaps you've played the game Rummikub with family or friends before. The game has sold over 500 million copies to date.
Rummikub is actually the very first game that Goliath came out with 41 years ago. So Rummikub is our origin story. And when I started with Goliath, I happened to mention, oh, right, we have Rummikub is one of our games. And almost universally, what people respond to when they know that Goliath has Rummikub is, oh my gosh, I always played that growing up with my grandparents.
Rummikub is easy to learn, but packed in with strategy aspects.
And essentially you have tiles and you're trying to put different groups together, whether they're as a sequential number run or all the same number, just of different color tiles. And it gets definitely heated, definitely competitive. And as you play more and more, you start to notice the nuances of how you can win.
Sequence was another one of the top board games of 2020 and has sold millions of copies worldwide.
You are essentially just trying to make 5 in a row on the game board. So you either want to go horizontally or vertically or diagonally. You can use your chips to block other players. There are a couple cards in the deck that you can draw where you either have a kind of wild card that you can play, or you can remove a chip that somebody else has played.
Higby says that one of the main reasons why board games showed such a resurgence last year was being able to play from the comfort of your own home during the pandemic.
We've all seen it. We all saw it in 2020, that sometimes just returning to something that you already knew rather than trying to learn something brand new was just nice. You went back to those memories of playing Rummikub with your grandparents or playing Sequence with your cousins.
For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
The Manitoba government says it is too soon to expect COVID-19 pandemic restrictions to be lifted. The current province-wide Code Red restrictions were expected to be lifted on Friday. Premier Brian Pallister says he does not think there will be any significant change. Pallister says the province is still worried about a spike in cases following the holidays. Yesterday, Manitoba health officials reported 176 new COVID-19 cases, along with 10 more deaths. Saskatchewan Health Minister Paul Merriman is defending the pace of COVID-19 vaccinations. Officials say less than 1% of Moderna doses have been administered so far. Merriman says the vaccine is being used in remote communities, and there are logistical challenges when it comes to shipment and proper storage. Reports say the province received close to 4,900 doses of the Moderna vaccine on December 28th, and only 48 shots have been given out so far. Just over half of the 8,700 doses of the Pfizer vaccine received have been given to healthcare workers mainly in Regina and in Saskatoon. Well, it was another nice day across southwestern Alberta today. The above-zero temperatures will continue. Complete weather details are on deck. Barely had a cloud in the sky today, and mild temperatures once again in Lethbridge. Jeanette Rocher is back with a complete look at the weather picture. Jeanette, I took a peek at the long-range forecast, and not a bad weekend is shaping up.
Yeah, it'll be a nice one, Hal, that's for sure. All these plus temperatures and sunshine. I will certainly take that in January. Okay, let's take a look at tonight's forecast. This evening, a few clouds with some fog patches developing overnight, an overnight low of -1. Mix of sun and cloud on Friday with fog patches dissipating in the morning and a high of 5 degrees. Saturday, sunny and 1 degree. Sunday, +6 and mainly sunny. Another sunny one expected on Monday with 6 degrees being the high temperature. And then look at that. We could hit some double digits next week with a high all the way up to 13 degrees on Tuesday and 12 for Wednesday. The average high for this time of year, -2 degrees, and the average low is -14. So we are certainly off to a great start this January. Highest temperature on this day was 16 degrees in 2002, and it was -36 back in 1989. Sun rose this morning at 8:27 a.m., and sunset today is 4:49 p.m. Let's take a look at our national forecast. Over on the west coast tomorrow, Victoria, a few showers are expected in the morning, then a mix of sun and cloud. Windy near the Juan de Fuca Strait and temperature steady at 8 degrees. In Vancouver, 10 to 15 millimeters of rain could be expected, and also windy in the morning and a high of 7 degrees. In Edmonton, mainly sunny skies, high of -1, wind chill -12 in the morning and -6 in the afternoon. Sunny skies expected in Calgary tomorrow with a high of -1. Over in Saskatoon, mainly sunny skies, fog patches dissipating near noon, high -4, but lots of wind chill in the morning, should feel more like -23. In Regina, mainly cloudy and -2. Over in Winnipeg, 60% chance of flurries and temperature steady near -4. Let's take a look at central Canada. In Toronto, sunny and a high of -2 tomorrow. Ottawa, mainly cloudy and a high of -4, cooler with that wind chill though. And in Montreal, mainly sunny skies with a high of -3 without the wind chill. And in Atlantic Canada, Fredericton could see mainly cloudy skies with a high of -3. In Halifax, cloudy, 60% chance of flurries in the morning with a temperature steady near high of -1. In Charlottetown, cloudy with 60% chance of flurries and a high of -3. And in St. John's, Newfoundland, expect periods of rain or drizzle and fog dissipating in the afternoon. Amount could be 2 millimeters. Wind gusts up to 50 km/h. Temperature sitting steady near 4 degrees. And there you go. That is your weather for this first Thursday of 2021.
Today's weather is brought to you by Four Seasons Home Comforts, experts in heating, AC, and fireplace install and repair.
Chief economists at Canada's big banks are expressing optimism about economic growth this year. They did say, however, that recovery will depend on the success of getting COVID-19 under control and the vaccine rollout. BMO Financial Group Chief Economist Doug Porter says his bank is expecting the global economy to grow by 5.5% this year, followed by another 4% in 2022. But he says if the virus continues to accelerate and lockdowns continue, it could lead to a decline in activity in a number of major economies this quarter. Automotive sales in Canada have slumped to their lowest level since 2009. A new report by DeRose Automotive says sales fell by 19.7% last year compared to 2019 to just over 1.5 million units. The consultancy says auto sales fell 2.6% last month compared to December of 2019, leaving dealers in the midst of one of the steepest declines in a long time. Light trucks represented the bulk of the purchases among Canadians, accounting for 79.9% of sales. The report says more consumers are switching away from passenger cars in favor of light trucks. Facebook says it is barring U.S. President Donald Trump from posting until at least after the inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden later this month. The move follows a mob of Trump supporters who stormed into the U.S. Capitol building yesterday amid more claims about the integrity of last November's U.S. election. In a post this morning, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg says the risk of allowing Trump to use the platform is too great. Zuckerberg says Trump's account will be locked for 2 weeks, but could be locked indefinitely. Twitter, meanwhile, suspended the U.S. president's account for 12 hours yesterday after Trump repeatedly posted accusations about an election that was stolen from him. Twitter says that future violations by Trump could result in a permanent suspension. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 199 points on the day to finish at 18,027. The Dow was up 211 points to 31,041. The S&P 500 was up 55 points to 3803, and the Nasdaq was down 78 points on the day to 12,740. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 29 cents to $50.92 U.S. per barrel. Natural gas was down 4 cents to $2.68 U.S. Gold was even on the day at $19.1385 U.S. an ounce. Silver was also even at $27.14 U.S. an ounce. Wheat is at $277 per metric ton, barley's at $279, canola's at $6.55, and corn is at $318 per metric ton. Live cattle were down 3 cents to $114.98, feeder cattle were up $1 to $137.58, and lean hogs were down 65 cents to $69.13. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 78.83 U.S. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman has announced that he will not be seeking re-election this fall. In a tweet, the mayor said he is now past the age when most people retire, and 2020 made him realize how much time he misses spending with his family. He says making the announcement now allows others time to prepare if they wish to serve our city. Churches are being unfairly targeted when it comes to COVID-19 restrictions. Tanya Gaw with Action for Canada says Canadians need to stand up against government lockdowns. Watch the full interview with Ms. Gaw coming up in just a moment.